Imagine walking down a busy street in modern-day New York or Los Angeles. You see someone dancing. At first, you think it's a TikTok trend, a street performer, or just someone losing themselves in the music. But then, you look closer. There is no music, their shoes are soaked in blood, their eyes are rolled back into their skulls, wide with sheer terror. They are screaming for help, begging their own limbs to stop moving. They keep dancing. Hours turn into days. Days turn into weeks. Until, one by one, their hearts literally explode from exhaustion. This isn't a scene from a Hollywood horror movie. It actually happened. In the scorching summer of 1518, an inexplicable psychological contagion seized a city, turning a civilized populace into a literal mass grave of twitching, dancing corpses. For over 500 years, scientists, historians, and doctors have tried to explain it. Was it a biochemical poison? A demonic curse? Or a terrifying glitch in the human mind? Buckle in, because the deeper you look into the dancing plague of 1518, the more you realize that whatever triggered it could happen again today. To understand the horror, we have to look at patient zero. Her name was Frau Troffea. On a hot July morning, she stepped out of her house into the narrow streets of Strasbourg, France. She didn't say a word. She had no expression on her face. Suddenly, her body began to twitch. Then she began to dance. There was no joy in her movements. It was violent, convulsive. Her husband begged her to stop. Neighbors gathered, laughing at what they thought was a bizarre public meltdown. But hours passed. The sun went down, the temperature dropped, and Frau Troffea kept going. She danced through the night until the skin on her feet tore open, leaving a trail of blood on the stones. When she finally collapsed from pure dehydration and exhaustion, people thought the nightmare was over, but it wasn't. As soon as she woke up, the unseen force took control of her nervous system again. She kept dancing. By day 3, authorities grew terrified. They bundled her into a wagon and sent her away to a shrine in the mountains, hoping a priest could cast out whatever demon had hollowed her out. But it was already too late. The entity hadn't just taken Frau Troffea. It had left something behind in the air of Strasbourg. Within a week, the madness spread. 34 people were now dancing in the streets alongside her empty home. By August, that number exploded to over 400. Think about the sheer logistics of this nightmare. This wasn't a party. It was a mass execution where the victims were forced to be their own executioners. Witnesses recorded that mothers were dancing next to the bodies of their dead children. Respectable merchants, religious clergy, and young teenagers were all trapped in the exact same physical loop. At its peak, the dancing plague was killing up to 15 people every single day. The local government had a full-scale crisis on their hands. They needed a cure, and they needed it immediately. So, they called in the highest medical minds of the era. And the solution the doctors came up with? It was so monumentally catastrophic, it made the body count skyrocket. The physicians of Strasbourg ruled out supernatural causes. They declared that this was a natural disease caused by what they called hot blood. And their brilliant medical advice? They told the city council that the only way to cure the dancers was to let them keep dancing. They believed if the victims danced continuously, day and night, they would eventually burn the disease out of their systems. So, the city council did the unthinkable. They cleared the grand marketplaces. They built massive wooden stages. They hired professional musicians, pipers, and drummers to keep a constant, aggressive rhythm going. They even hired strongmen to hold up the infected citizens when their legs began to buckle. They turned the city into a literal festival of death. Instead of curing the people, the loud, pounding drums and the public spectacle acted like gasoline on a wildfire. The rhythm unified the mass hysteria. In September 1518, the plague simply vanished. The remaining dancers slowly regained control of their bodies, leaving behind a city traumatized, broken, and littered with graves. So, what actually happened? For centuries, science has scrambled for answers. Let's look at the two leading theories because one of them is deeply unsettling. Theory number 1, ergotism. Some scientists believe the citizens ate bread made from rye flour contaminated with a toxic fungus called Claviceps purpurea. This fungus contains chemicals closely related to modern LSD. It can cause severe hallucinations, spasms, and massive tremors. It sounds perfect, right? But there's a fatal flaw in this theory. Ergot poisoning cuts off blood supply to the limbs. It makes it physically impossible to run, let alone dance intensely for 72 hours straight. Which brings us to the second, far more terrifying theory. Mass psychogenic illness, a psychological chain reaction. In 1518, Strasbourg was experiencing extreme famine, devastating poverty, and a deadly outbreak of syphilis. The psychological stress was so unbearable, the human mind did what it always does when it reaches an absolute breaking point. It glitched. Frau Troffea's breakdown wasn't physical, it was a mental fracture. And in a deeply superstitious society, her outward expression of trauma became a visual trigger that unlocked the repressed panic inside everyone else. We like to look back at the people of 1518 and think we are different. We think we are too advanced, too educated, too sane to ever succumb to a mental contagion. But ask yourself, in our modern, hyper-stressed world, where anxiety is at an all-time high and we are all globally connected through screens, how far away are we really from our own breaking point? Mass psychogenic illness still happens today in schools, workplaces, and factories all over the globe. The only difference is the symptom. The next time you see a massive, inexplicable trend take over millions of people overnight, look a little closer at their eyes. Are they doing it because they want to? Or are they just the next ones caught in the rhythm? If you want to uncover more historical anomalies that science can't explain, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave a comment below. What do you think happened in the summer of 1518? Until next time, keep your eyes open.